Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today for our performance influencer playbook. We're waiting for a few minutes to make sure everybody that wanted to join had a chance to get in the room. But again, thank you all for coming. I'm Jon Claydon. I'm AP's chief strategist. I've been in the partnership space for close to 20 years and oversee acceleration partners, go-to-market strategy for influencer and all the creator campaigns that we run. And I'm joined by Jack from ShopMy, and I'll let him introduce himself. But we have a really fantastic, knowledgeable person to join us on the call here, and excited to have this conversation.
I appreciate the kind words. Excited to be here. I think that we got some really important topics we want to talk about, and obviously joined by John, who's got way more experience in this than I do. But a little bit of background: I've been in the marketing technology space for a little over 10 years, which I thought was impressive until John's 20. In a variety of different parts of the funnel. Primarily, throughout my career, focused on top of funnel advertising, transitioning into more of the CRM and e-com space, and now currently leading the teams here at ShopMy as Senior Vice President on ways that brands can really be thinking about creators as a new performance channel. So excited to lead the teams here, and also excited to talk about some of the data that we've seen, and most importantly, some of the learnings and insights, so that other brands can really make sure that they're continuing to diversify their media mix and really being on the cutting edge of ways they want to be working with creators and influencers to drive really meaningful business outcomes. So excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. And the way that we structured this as well, we didn't want this to be sort of an interview panelist sort of thing. What we've done is we've actually identified we think are 8 or 9 topics that are really pressing and pertinent for clients today as they evaluate creator, how they sort of are exploring these performance-based creator programs. And so we've kind of built some topics around that I think both of us are going to touch on that are relevant for hopefully everybody on the call today. But yeah, again, we know that this industry is exciting and growing quickly and rapidly changing, and so hopefully that our ideas and concepts here and thoughts that we have can lend itself to everybody on the call and give you guys some good ideas around how other brands are approaching the space and the opportunities that are there. So with that being said, we kind of kick it off. Jack, I think these are some interesting data points that we've all put
Yeah.
together, and I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on it.
Absolutely. And just one other plug too. I know that I think we're gonna save some time for questions at the end. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll make sure we get to all of them. And hopefully can make sure it's a, extra helpful conversation for, in those last kind of 15 minutes. But, wanted to start here. And I think that this is something that, especially for people in the room, this is not foreign, right? I think that especially for those folks who've been thinking about performance marketing and really investing in performance marketing channels and the traditional channels over the past decade, things have been changing dramatically. And look, we pulled some stats here of actually things that we've seen across our client base, as well as a couple different stats we pulled from other partners. And some of the numbers here are a little bit alarming, but I want to stress that it is, of course, different for every brand, right? Like some brands, maybe haven't hit the maturity curve of really investing at scale in terms of performance, and maybe haven't started to see a little bit of that decline in ROAS. Other brands may be feeling this acutely, and it's something that they're actively talking about every day. But I think that what's really important is that every brand should really be thinking about ways that they can just diversify their media mix, particularly in terms of performance. And over reliance on one channel really is going to leave you just overexposed, right? In terms of any potential change that may happen. We saw it with the iOS 14 rollout, as like data tracking became a lot more difficult and privacy first really became a bigger part of the marketing stack, is that a lot of these traditional ad channels have started to see a decrease in their efficiency. So a lot of the brands that I talk to every day, are saying, yeah, no, we want to continue to invest in these traditional channels. It is super important for us to do it, but we now need to start augmenting that with other things that we're doing in the performance world. Even if it's just being able to add incredible creative diversity from other channels into their existing paid channels. Everyone knows that an over reliance on one, two, or three channels is just going to potentially leave you overexposed. And for anyone who works on year over year comps or is gold on year over year comps, any decrease in terms of efficiency always comes at a pretty significant cost. So we start with this because a lot of the ways that people have traditionally thought about working with influencers and creators and even an affiliate has not been in this like performance channel mindset. But what we're really seeing the best brands do is starting to bridge the gap of thinking about all of their different marketing investments really as one holistic strategy and starting to lean more into this influencer creator and affiliate world as a true performance channel as we've seen technology as well as strategy really evolve to be able to fill that need. So and the good news is that these things are really working, right? We've seen some consumer data that about 50% of consumers are right now in purchasing through influencers regularly, right? So it's no longer simply that PR or awareness channel. Like this is a channel that people are actually purchasing through, and we're seeing significant consideration being attributed back to those influencer posts. But also something that's really exciting is that we're seeing a high level of incrementality. Right. And we're seeing a high level of new customer acquisition actually coming from creators. I think that when anyone is starting to think about, all right, what's my most efficient channel? Oftentimes you're really brought back into like, all right, are we going to be targeting the same people time over time? Are we simply going to be retargeting people to death? Are we going to be paying for that second or third purchase? And one thing that we've actually seen in data is that about 60% of our purchases through ShopMy links are actually totally new customers. So we're seeing this be an investment in creators and affiliate um, not only be something that is driving incredible efficiency, that's being branded creative, but is doing an incredibly effective job at actually acquiring new customers, which is the name of the game in terms of actually growing your business.
Mm. Yeah, it's really exciting too because I mean this is these data points are things that 5 years ago when we were really leaning into the influencer space and starting to build out our practice, these were all theories that we had, right? Like commerce and social commerce was starting to get off the ground, but I mean the reality is campaigns back then it was harder to track things, it was harder to measure them, and we all knew that creators were having an outsized influence on purchase behavior and consumer activity. It was just really hard to track and measure. But like I think everybody knows the TikTok maybe buy it sort of trend, or like everybody knows that they're being influenced by creators in some way. I think what's really fascinating now is we're finally at a point where the data can validate a lot of those assumptions that we had back in the day. And what's fascinating is that we've gone from this concept of creators are influencing decisions to actually now being able to measure that in a really actionable ways, and it becoming a really large acquisition channel for brands as well, right? This is not half a percentage or 1 percentage point of revenue for the clients we work with. It is a substantial channel, and we're finally at a point now where we're starting to see that activity and traction take hold that we've been kind of betting on for a few years, which is super exciting. Um, and so I think this inflection point that we talked about previously, it has been coming together for a long time, like a traditional affiliate, and creator. A lot of the clients we work with, it's all under this sort of veil of partnerships now, right? It's not siloed channels, and we see a tremendous amount of overlap and value that comes from running a substantial creator program strategically along with an affiliate channel, and frankly, the two these sort of siloed channels themselves play off each other and support each other. So typically we're seeing clients that are taking a holistic view of the entire sort of partnership ecosystem and trying to figure out ways in which they can invest with creators so that messaging and content that works well in social channels can also be pushed through to traditional affiliate. We want to sort of echo and amplify messaging that works with consumers across the full spectrum of where they might be engaging with that brand's content. So it's not one team owns influencer and one team owns affiliate, and they're just kind of left with their own budgets. We're really sort of seeing these channels play off each other, and frankly, they're being run under one partnerships group, at least from a performance perspective. A lot of our clients still have maybe budgets that are used with creators from a branding or a PR side of things, but they're carving out new budgets and heavily investing into this channel from the performance perspective, which again is what Jack and Sean help with a lot of our clients to do in terms of actually driving that revenue and that acquisition.
Totally. And I think that some things you hit on there are super important, right? Like a lot of brands have historically thought about influencer as like a brand building activity, which is very top of funnel. And if you go back, 20 years, like a lot of affiliate has been thought about as like relatively middle to bottom of funnel. And I think what we're seeing now is really the convergence of the two because of data, because of tooling, and because of just the new way that people are shopping and engaging, right? And I even think you can extend this even one level further of saying we're seeing influencer and affiliate start to come together, but also, again, like those performance channels, because a lot of the work that's happening in influencer and affiliate is then having incredible positive externalities on their own performance in their rented channels. And like we saw in the previous slide, there's challenges in terms of the efficiency that we're seeing with these channels. And a lot of brands are now thinking about creative diversity as the way that they truly win. And where do you get incredible creative diversity is from the creators themselves who are creating authentic content that speaks to your brand. And it's one thing to go and try to shoot 20 different pieces of content that are self-promotional. It's another thing to have thousands of pieces of content that were created by high quality creators that are ready to be deployed in your own, paid marketing channel. So I think what we're just seeing is this like convergence of course, influencer, affiliate, and then now how they can actually help fuel your traditional paid channels in a really meaningful way as you really need to win with creative diversity.
Yeah. And we see consistently across the board that those creator assets outperform anything the brands are creating themselves through their own sort of paid social. At the end of the day, consumers respond to authenticity and trust, and the content that is being developed by creators it frankly outperforms anything else out there, and it doesn't feel like an ad. I mean, that's the best part about it, right? And everybody has experienced that sort of fatigue of traditional advertising. And frankly, if you have a creator that speaks to an audience with a relevant product, is authentic about it, it ends up just working, right? And that's what we continue to see expand and help grow the channel.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so I think this is a great point of like what has blocked people in the past from doing this? Because I think like everyone intuitively it makes sense, right? Like we know as consumers that when we see a great creator post that introduces us to a product that is like highly influential in terms of us being able to discover that product and eventually buy it. We know that affiliate is a great way to truly like pay for performance, which is really what marketers love. It's like we only want to pay if it actually works. So what's actually been stopping people from doing this and how they're actually scaling it? And I think that it really comes to a couple different things. One is the technology, right? I think if you rewind the clock, a few years, being able to actually get a true sense of what is the directly attributable revenue that is coming from the brand building activity that you're doing through influencers and creators has been a challenge, right? Um, and also getting individual detail about individual creators has been a challenge. Yeah, we might be able to see things like as an aggregate through our total affiliate network, but being able to get it on like the deep granular detail so that you can truly devise a strategy to actually grow that has been challenging. I think the second thing is that the way that brands have even organized has not been giving them the tools they need and like how they actually do budgets to be able to scale things, right? Oftentimes, like people will think about brand awareness or PR budgets as a limited set, finite resource. And going and actually justifying, hey, look, we want to be spending more in this brand building activity is very difficult if it's equally difficult to be able to justify the outcomes of that and showing the directly attributable outcomes that come from that investment. Now, what we're seeing is brands have the ability to say, all right, all of this brand accretive work that I'm doing of working with influencers actually having a really significant impact on my new customer acquisition, on my efficiency of overall media. And therefore, I now have the ability to go and justify to get more budget. And then the second thing is kind of going back to the original slide of how we're seeing these different channels come together. I think brands are now reorganizing, knowing that these channels really do work together incredibly well, and we can't think about things as silos. If we've got, to Jon's point, a piece of creator content that's outperforming your traditional media, well, why are we saying, all right, we can't continue to invest that just because it sits within a different, part of our budget? As brands evolve and really start to think about their budgets as fungible across these different activities, we're seeing a lot of significant investment shift from things that might be a little bit less performant, especially that last dollar that you're putting into traditional channels, and really moving that over. So I think the brands that are winning are the ones who are thinking about budgets fungibly, but also are investing in technology and partners that can help them really justify that investment, show the actual directly attributable outcomes that come from increasing those investments.
And I think the way that, traditional performance channels scale, right, it's always done with, a measure of, ROAS or, assuming you're hitting, CPA targets or CAC targets, you can continue to scale. You put $1 in, you get $3 out. That's a very easy, math equation to run. And I think it's been historically difficult to do that with creators where it was a guess when you were making an investment. Okay, I'm going to pay $10,000 for a reel and a couple of story slides, and fingers crossed, I'm going to get a 2x return on that. And you had to go through and do that, in a very strategic way. There's a lot of nuance and back and forth, a lot of time and investment spent, working with those creators, getting content up and running. And I think we're getting to a point now where that is looking much more like a programmatic channel than it historically ever has, right? We have data that validates when we work with certain creators on certain pieces of content, we know that's going to perform at a certain rate. We have historical performance data from those creators who are always on and actually creating content, so we know what sort of transactions and activity are happening, and we know that when we boost and increase, investment with them during key periods of time, we're going to get a certain return on that. And so, the creator world these days, especially working with folks like ShopMy, look way more like traditional programmatic channels where we're able to scale up those budgets. And so when we do find pockets where we're winning, we can overinvest there and we end up, scaling quite dramatically, where historically that was really tough to do, and was very manual and time consuming for teams. So exciting world that we're kind of moving into uh, today. Oh, sorry, I went backwards. But I think it just sort of stepping from that, like where we're seeing a ton of excitement in the space, but we're also seeing brands enter, try to build out performance creator programs, and then pull back because they're struggling to make it work and they're not seeing success. And I think, some things that we see and have to guide clients through quite consistently in terms of this exploratory phase and trying to scale it up, in terms of what's making it struggle, is like there's this idea that you can do creator performance, and typically what that means to marketers is they say, great, I can pay a commission to influencers, and I'm just going to say I'm going to pay 10%, and then all of a sudden we're going to have thousands of creators come in and want to partner with us, and they're going to make us a whole bunch of money, and we don't have to do anything. We just turn it on and offer a commission, and we're good to go. And the reality is that is absolutely not the case. If anything, you have to do more work to engage creators and build community, excite them, find creative ways to partner with them, have budgets that go beyond just commission-based structures to invest here. And it has to be a strategic program that you build out and not just turn it on and set it and forget it. Like that stuff just does not work. And it's very similar to the traditional affiliate model where, anyone that's on the call here that's, been running affiliate programs, you can't just offer commission and hope that you're going to see a ton of revenue come from that and the success you're looking for. It takes investment, it takes strategy, it takes people, it takes technology, and ultimately you have to cultivate relationships with these partners that progress over time, right? So it's a large investment and it is a large amount of work, but again, the results can be outsized in terms of what you can get from this channel.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think it really comes down to like you need to have a strategy, right? Like to John's point, you can't just throw up a commission rate and then just like hope that people start coming in. Like that's the same thing as saying, hey, we published an ecom website and that's our whole marketing strategy for actually driving people to the site, right? Like it just doesn't work that way. And as like marketers, our job is to actually like drive better results, not just wait and see, right? And I think that that's where it's so important, especially partnering with like someone like Acceleration Partners to be able to say, all right, what is the actual strategy that we are going to run to be able to grow this channel 10% year over year, 20% year over year, 100% year over year, whatever it may be. And like really thinking about it as an active management versus thinking of it as something that is like similar to like almost like direct, hey, we'll pay people if they drive sales, but like we're just gonna kind of hope and see that people come in. And I think that there's an aspect of like traditionally that's been a lot of ways that people have kind of been forced to operate because they haven't had like the data and the tools to be able to actually go and push things forward, the levers to pull to be able to drive outsized outcomes. But I think that a lot of brands are just thinking about it as, hey, we're checking the box of doing affiliate by offering a commission rate. And guess what? Like that'll get you some sales, yeah, but it's really not going to actually move your business forward, or really help you diversify your media mix. And the one other thing I'll add in here is that um, what people are doing it wrong is they're thinking about it the old way, right? John mentioned before, it's very manual. Sometimes I would even talk about like the old world of working creators, almost like a hand-to-hand combat, right? You're going to each creator, how much for a reel, how much for a post? They're saying $10,000. Like, how about five, right? And the truth is now you actually have data to bring to the conversation to be able to make it something that is much more of a programmatic spend, where you know that when you put a certain amount of dollars in, you're gonna get predictable outcomes. And so I think that like thinking about it in the old way is really gonna not allow you to accelerate, and then not having a designated strategy, a true strategy behind it, again, will get you something, but it's not going to allow you to really move to the next level of performance marketing.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, I think we're talking a lot about, directly measurable ROI and performance. I mean, I think there you also need to sort of take a holistic view of what the value of this channel is that it's bringing to you, right? So obviously, direct response ROI on that investment is something that we are very adept at doing these days, and we have, great ability to measure that and measure that sort of performance. But the additional value you're getting out of creators and the work that goes into it, you have to have a strategy around measuring that, right? So sort of brand sentiment lift on your other channels, as Jack was alluding to, right? You run a bunch of campaigns with creators. If you do it right, you're going to see uplift in the other paid media efforts that you're doing, even if it's not involving creator content. So having a strategy that harnesses all that data and helps you understand the sort of holistic value that's being driven from creators is really critical. And again, where we see brands fail is they say, look, we're going to do a test, we're going to give, we're going to spend $10,000, and again, our commission rate's 10%. And if we don't see a 6x return from this, we're pulling the plug. And you're not really giving it the right attention, and you're not giving it the strategy that it deserves to be successful.
totally.
Um, yeah.
And yeah, and I think the other thing is sometimes people try to fit the way that they do things in other channels into the creator and affiliate world, and you lose really what makes it so powerful, which is like that authenticity that comes from these people. Sometimes we'll see a lot as like, oh, we want to write a script for them to say, we want to write a script for them to read, and like the truth is like that's kind of going against the whole point of really getting other people to tell your story in an authentic way. And like consumers can smell that from a mile away. It's like, all right, this is something that's highly scripted. This is something that's not like authentic. And therefore, like it's just not going to perform as well. And I think that like the other thing in terms of John's measurement is like you point is you really need to think critically about like the holistic impact, right? We're seeing as people actually start to spend in creators, we're seeing an increase in direct site traffic. We're seeing incredible halo effect on other channels like Amazon. And even though there's not sometimes like that directly attributable, or there always is a directly attributable impact, but we know that there's a lot more halo effect that comes from investing in creators. And brands who really have adept measurement platforms and are thinking about things on the next level will be able to capture that, properly measure it, and then make investments appropriately. Um, this next point is something that I feel very passionate about because I think that a lot of brands will think about investing in creators around big moments. Oh, we've got a sale, we've got a new drop. Now's the time that we need to really layer on creators. And I give you an example. It's like I've been sipping out of this Awala water bottle. I don't know if the Awala team is here, but I love Awala. I actually do talk about Awala all the time. And if we think about like the experience as a consumer, if the only time you ever saw me as a creator talk about Awala is when it's on sale, like is that really like an authentic recommendation? Or is it I'm talking about Awala every single week on almost every single meeting and the prep calls that John and I have had on this. I'm talking about Awala. But guess what? Now this week it's on sale. Like that is something that is like truly authentic. And I think a lot of brands are really only leaning on creators and influencers in these big moments. And they're missing the underlying like trust that you need to build with the end audience by having an always on strategy. And then the only other thing I'll add here is in big moments, you can't mess up. Like these are the big moments for a reason, right? And we need to make sure that we execute well. Investing in those always on programs allows you to get critical data about how each creator performs so that you know in those big moments where you need to really double down and invest. It's as if you don't practice right before the big game, or as if you don't take, like as if you don't like start to measure things before you have to really ramp things up. Brands who are investing consistently really get true insights of what's resonating well with their end customer. So when the moment comes where you have to blow it out of the water, it's Black Friday, it's a sale, it's a new release, like you've got the data to be able to make smarter investments on how you actually scale that.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think there back to the idea of you're gonna make an outsized investment during those key periods. If you are not working with creators consistently, you don't have data backing up these programs, you're guessing, right? And this is what the historical traditional way of doing influencer marketing looks like. We do casting. We say the demographics of this creator look good. I think that they've done some campaigns with competitors in the past. Let's give them $50,000 and cross our fingers. And like that, sometimes you get lucky. More often than not, it's not the best return. But the point of having these communities that you're building and having these engagements with creators that you're cultivating over the year is that that Jack is this amazing creator, and when I say we're going to double down for this, key pivotal moment for the business, we need you to be creating more content and getting more visibility out there for this product you've already been talking about for the past 6 months. It has a massively outsized return rather than just guessing on creators you haven't necessarily worked with. So um, having that data, having those relationships that help you scale up and scale quickly is critical. And yeah, we really in our world at Acceleration Partners, all of our clients are running these campaigns on an always on basis, and we fluctuate up budgets and scale during those key periods when it makes sense. And because we have those relationships, it's proving to be really successful and driving those results we're looking for.
Yeah.
Um,
And one of the things, just to dovetail on that, just thought of it in the last point too, is also like in those big moments, you want to be, that's when you're increasing your media spend, your traditional media spend. So you
yeah.
need more content, right? You need more creative diversity. And guess what? Getting that in those low periods that you can then boost that content and be able to push that into Meta, push that into any other rented channel that you have, allows you to have, again, like a wide different array of different types of content when you're spending the most, which is where, again, having that creative diversity is the most important. So you don't want to just be waiting for those big moments because in many cases it'll be too late to then be able to reuse that content for other paid channels.
Yeah, that's great. And so, it wouldn't be a marketing webinar unless we talked about AI and how it's, coming for all of us. And so I think this is a point that we wanted to touch on just in terms of, what we're seeing across LLM citations and how creators are having an influence across, the various AI tools out there. And I think this is an interesting thing. We're starting to see this trend happen this year where again our clients are looking at again this holistic value of what are they getting out of these partnership programs and what are they getting out of these influencer programs. We're starting to see outsized impact on creator content influencing citations and influencing brand relevancy across terms on the various LLMs. So specifically long form YouTube content is starting to get picked up quite heavily. We're seeing, again, a lot of long form real content as well, having material impacts in citation and brand relevancy across the LLMs. Substack is starting to appear more substantially as well, which is another platform that our creators use. And again, when we think about this broader approach and broader strategy with these creators, again, the direct ROI is critical, and that's what most of our clients have as an initial measure of where they make this investment. But then again, talking about like the other things that are very tangible that where these results are taking place and the impact are taking place from these creators on the AI side of things, we are starting to lean very very heavily in there. Again, it's hard to measure true ROI from a citation and a creator content showing up there. But I would say the brands that are leaning heavily and investing in the space, realize that it's certainly having an effect on consumers, right? And so we need to be showing up there. We need to be showing up in those citations, and creator content is one of the better ways for us to influence those results and ensure that brands are being talked about and cited on those terms that are key and strategic for them.
Totally. And I think that at ShopMy, we are firm believers in like the power of a human recommendation, right? Like really that is the nature of the business that we're building,
Mhm.
right? And even if you think about any considered purchase that you've had, even if it did come from an AI recommendation or from a Google search, like I'm always still sending it to my partner being like, hey, what do you think? Right. And I think that
Yeah.
human recommendation is still incredibly important. And really what we're trying to do is power this like human-led recommendations at scale. But this is like one of the more interesting externalities that's come out of it. And like I'd be lying to say that like this was like an intentional strategy, as we really started leaning into it, but rather it was something that we've now seen brands come to us talking about. And I think about I was at a major retail event out in Vegas earlier this spring, and I had a an SVP of marketing come to me, and I ran into her in the hallway, and she goes, "Oh, I was just talking about you on stage." And I was like, "Oh, were you talking about creator commerce? Were you talking about the impact we've been having in terms of affiliate?" And she goes, "No, I was talking about GEO and the impact you're having on our GEO." And what we're seeing, again, to John's point, is that as these LLMs are going and trying to find context as to the right products, the right solutions to recommend, they're looking at people, right? And they're looking for the people-led recommendations. So we're seeing it. We've now started partnering actually with a couple different GEO measurement companies as we try to help some brands navigate this. Is that those YouTube and long form content, like John mentioned, are incredible citations, and brands that are investing in YouTube creators are seeing their GEO rankings go up. It's Substack, it's Reddit, it's Reels. It's just the way that you can get more people talking about you is going to make sure that you show up in a really meaningful way in these GEO searches. And it's been one of those things that has been like this amazing kind of like, we're investing in the human connection and the human led recommendation. And it's actually now helping fuel the AI recommendations. But in the end, we know that marketers and brands need to have strategies for both, right? And similar to having affiliate kind of be this like wait and see, like you want to be able to have levers that you can pull to improve all different aspects of your marketing stack, whether it is the affiliate performance channel, whether it's making sure that you've got amazing creative diversity, or it's making sure that you rank really highly on GEO. Like you don't want to be in that wait and see moment. You want to have a strategy towards that. And the beautiful thing that we found is that these things can work really well hand in hand. Is you can
Hmm.
be driving that directly attributable revenue from creators. You can be elevating your brand by having other people tell your story, and you can also be now showing up in a really scaled way in terms of these GEO and LLM searches because you've got the world talking about you.
Yeah. And I think one of the other interesting things about that is that we have data that shows the key terms and searches and discovery phases that consumers are going through across LLMs. We can then turn that around and create content around that. One, to potentially rank and influence those results, but also to actually develop content around answering those questions. Because with that pattern you described, Jack, is exactly what happens. People will use ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude for discovery, and they do the initial evaluation through that. But then they want human validation of that decision that they maybe have come to or are leaning towards with the support of AI. If you have content that is then validating that assumption, it ends up converting incredibly well, right? So, doing campaigns with creators that are aimed at those key terms and answering those key questions is an incredibly effective way, especially when there's a ton of discovery activity going on across those LLMs. So, I think one other thing that we've touched on this a lot, the actual measurement of these campaigns that go beyond just revenue, right? And we touched on the AI side of things. Jack, you mentioned some of the halo effects. What else are brands looking at? We've some of the clients we're working with that do a lot of stuff heavily on TikTok Shop are actually looking at on-site lift and conversions from like a view through attribution perspective because TikTok has the ability to measure that now with TikTok Shop, which is awesome. What else are you guys seeing in terms of measurement that goes beyond last click revenue?
Yeah. Last week revenue, of course, is going to be the thing that we care about the most because it's like directly attributable. That's how marketers will really justify that budget. But now, as we're seeing the measurement platforms continue to evolve, MMMs now, or we're seeing like really across a lot of our clients, is we're seeing things in a couple different places. One is that like direct halo effect, primarily from like their other distribution channels, i.e. Amazon. So we're seeing a lot of lift in Amazon sales, and it kind of makes sense, right? You see a creator reel, you go to the place where you like to shop, and you're going to go search for that, right? Same thing that we're seeing is in terms of increase of search traffic. We saw that for a couple of our brands as they started to scale their actual paid investment in ShopMy and starting to think of utilizing our opportunities tool, they saw a material increase in their direct traffic as people said, all right, I'm seeing this great creator content. I got to go find that directly on the site, especially if creator content, because there still are some limitations on like the clickability, if that makes sense. That's a new word I might just made up. But the clickability of some of the different types of content, still you're seeing this like halo effect of people going and seeing direct traffic increases. The other thing that we're now seeing really start to scale in terms of the questions that we're getting. And then like as we talk to brands about they're justifying, the increased investment in ShopMy is the
Mhm.
amount of creative that they can actually get to be able to fuel their other channels. I know I've mentioned the term creative diversity a couple different
Mhm.
times, but as brands know that if you want to increase spend in Meta, you have to increase your creative. And creative can be sometimes very expensive. And we've developed solutions that allow to make that so it is a risk-free investment that you can get thousands of pieces of content without having to do upfront fees. So we're now seeing like the addition of creative fueling their other performance channels be another great area where brands are thinking about how they want to invest in this channel. But like the truth is, like you can invest, every brand is different, right? Like every brand is going
Mhm.
to have different activities and they're going to be thinking about creators in different ways. I'll give you two examples. One, we saw a high fashion brand actually utilize creators and the ShopMy platform to invite people to their fashion shows, right? They said, all right, for the people that we're inviting to sit front row, like what's the actual impact? We know they're posting, but what's the actual impact of that? And they wanted to have a better strategy of who they invite to the front row. We've seen other brands, and I had a conversation yesterday. He's utilizing ShopMy opportunities function, inviting creators to do store openings. They're inviting them to actually show up in store, and they're giving them an increased commission rate for the few weeks after that store opening. So they're using to say, all right, how effective was this in terms of like actually driving foot traffic,
Mhm.
or like in terms of like how the store launched. We're seeing other brands who think about it solely as, you know what, like we actually do want media value here, and we want to understand the media value of this. Like the opportunities quite literally are endless of how you want to think about working with creators and how you want to weave that into your affiliate strategy. The key is just making sure you have the right tools to be able to measure that. And
Yeah.
it changes by brand, but it's something that's super exciting as we see a lot more development in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, so the only thing I'll add to this, and obviously AP is managing, creator programs and the traditional affiliate channel for most of our clients. When we are running these large scale creator programs, we're heavily investing in there. It has an outsized return on the traditional affiliate side of things as well, like a 30% lift to net new customers coming through, content partners and things like that we've seen, and we're happy to share some case studies if anybody's interested. But like the more you are generating content around discovery and engagement with partners and is sort of like cultivating this ecosystem. As I said on the start of the call, like it kind of plays off of each other, right? And this is the whole reason why we're so excited about the continued growth and advancement of partnerships in general, right? Influencer is one subsection of that. But it really does have a really great synergy with traditional affiliate, and we're seeing again data that speaks to that with the programs that we're running. Um, I think like again, we touched on this a few times. Like brands that are doing this the right way, like we get this question a lot from clients that are coming to us and trying to figure out where to invest that they've tested and it hasn't worked out so well. And they want to know like what's working out there and who are the guys that are doing this the right way. And I think generally like there's probably some themes and we could list them out quickly since we touched on a lot of them I think already. But like it's it's having a strategy and a clear sort of end goal when you kick things off, but not being limited to short-term restrictions in terms of what the absolute return has to be, I think is the most critical thing for us, right? So if we say that we are going to invest in creators, we believe that they are valuable, we believe that we can generate, positive revenue and positive growth and have this be a performance channel, I think that's a fantastic place to start, and that's what most of our clients start with when they're engaging with us. Now, the finer points of how we ultimately get to that end state is going to be different for every single brand, and different creators are going to work for them, different strategies are going to work for them, and different investment timelines are going to be dependent upon the brand and the product, and all these different nuances with these programs, but not having some rigidity into the structure of a test is really the thing that we find to be most successful, right? Don't limit it and say we're going to run this for 2 months. We're going to give this amount of dollars to it, and if we don't see this immediate return, we're going to shut it off. Unfortunately, we do have those conversations frequently, and I'm sure you have it on your side too, Jack, where like it'll be a
Mhm.
test, and like if depending on how you're measuring it, if you're only looking at one little slice of data, things get shut down quickly. And I really don't think that's the right decision. Right? These things take time to grow and to cultivate and to scale. And so I think that's the most critical piece is just giving it time to breathe.
Completely agree. I mean, I just put down a couple points here on my trusty notepad, and I think that like the first one and most important thing is like you've got a strategy of what are you actually trying to do, right? Like if you go in and say, yeah, we'll test it, we'll have it a commission rate and like we'll see what happens, like yeah, like, it's not going to work, right? Like you're not going to really see the outcomes and you're not going to be on the leading edge of how brands are really investing and like winning in this space, particularly around like an efficient use of a dollar, right? So the first is like you need to make sure that you've got a strategy. And if you don't have a strategy in house, you got to partner with people who do, right? Who can help you with that. And I think that's something that's super important. I think the second thing is you really understand like that measurement framework. How are you going to be measuring success? And like really thinking about it in a more holistic impact rather than just thinking about like the directly attributable revenue that comes from affiliate creators. And like, of course, that's going to be fantastic. But if you only think about that, you're going to be leaving so much on the table, and you're really going to be climbing to like the nearest hill instead of the tallest mountain in terms of what the right investment is. I think the third thing is like you need the right tools because you need the right tools because the tools enable the right data. It's like you need data to be able to have a really informed strategy. And that means data not only in terms of what the entire affiliate channel is doing, but like on an individual creator level so that you can start to really have a nuanced strategy on how we want to actually expand this. From there, it's like you need to be thinking about it flexibly in terms internally, right? Don't let like the traditional ways you've organized your brand be limiting factors of what's going to stop your growth. If you see affiliate and creators start to outperform what you're seeing in other channels, like, do not let your business rules of how you do budgets block you from that growth. You have to be thinking about flexibility. You have to be thinking about what is the true goal of our marketing org. It's to be able to drive new customers. It's to be able to grow the business and to do it as efficiently as possible while also still elevating that brand. Um, then we start to get into like a little bit like the strategies, and this is something that John already keyed on a little bit. It's like you got to lean into authenticity, lean into what makes the
Mm.
channel great in the first place. If you write a script and you send them the script and you hope it performs, like that's not the strategy. We've got people who are authentic fans of your brand. If you don't have authentic fans of your brand, you can create authentic fans of your brand by communication and gifting and making sure you get product into their hand. But then you got to let them do what they do best, which is like authentically tell the message about your brand that resonates with their audience. They've got this trusted relationship with their audience. Don't try to insert yourself and say exactly what and define what they should say. Let them have that editorial control, and you'll see that not only does it perform better, but it's more predictable, so you can figure out pricing better, and it really unlocks like you truly think about this as a performance channel. We've already touched on this and being always on. You don't want to make sure that I'm only talking about a wallet during sales. You want people to be talking about your products throughout the entire year and then really scaling things in those big moments. Because again, that really leads into authenticity. And then my final point, as I talked about a couple times, is know that this channel can also help fuel your other channels, right? Use the content. Use the content that you're getting from affiliate and creators in your other channels. It'll help your other channels perform better. There's a number of different tools that we offer, as well as things that you can do even without working with ShopMy to help fuel that growth. But I think if you follow that framework of strategy, measurement, having the right tools to be able to understand the data, a flexible budget that can then allow you to actually go to the most efficient spend rather than thinking about rigidity, leaning in on authenticity, making sure you've got an always on program, and then also using creators and affiliate to help fuel their channels, like that's going to help you win.
I love it, man. That's a great blueprint for anybody on the call. Yeah, this that was fantastic. I think we want to make sure we leave some time for Q&A, and I think that was the last sort of topic point that we had on our side. So, want to open up the floor for any questions from the audience now. And Jack, you might be able to see the chat because I
Yeah,
think it might actually be blocked from my side. So if there are
I
questions
got
from
it.
there that you want to read out, yeah.
I got it. So we got a first one in here. Our influencer program is previously well performing. Now we're struggling to scale. What are your suggestions to rethink our strategy or to drive new growth? I can take the first stab on this one. Follow that blueprint I just rolled out, right? Like in the end, it's tough to say there's no silver bullet to like doing creators and influencers the right way. Every business is different, every brand is different. So I wouldn't think about like what's the actual strategy that'll work for everyone. It depends on your company, it depends on your product, and it depends on the tools that you're using. So again, I would think about make sure that you've got a intention of what are you actually trying to accomplish. What is the strategy? Whether it's partnering with someone like John, or working with an internal team of like, all right, what are we actually trying to get out of our creator channel? Making sure that you've got the right measurement framework. I mean, we say we struggle to scale. Like, is that a question of, are we scaling the number of people talking about us? Are we scaling like the actual revenue that we're getting out of each individual creator? There's a number of different tools and resources that you can use to actually impact both of those. But I would think closely about and carefully about what are the things that are really holding you back there. And then I think the biggest thing is making sure that you really lean into authenticity and you don't try to take your message and have other people read your script, but rather lean into like what the creators do best, which is creating great content and turning over that editorial control in certain ways. And you'll start to see the knock-on effects of what that'll
Yeah.
do in terms of the impact, but also using that in other channels.
I think we do see this a lot, or clients that are coming to us where they've run something for a while and it worked really well, and they're maybe a D2C brand and they smashed it with lifestyle creators on Instagram, and then unfortunately they've saturated that market, and everybody that could buy their product has heard from those same creators for the past 3 years about it, and either that audience purchased or they didn't, and you've kind of fished out that pond. You got to go somewhere else, and so that's where, to Jack's point about talking about authenticity, scale, working with new creators, testing new audiences, that's critical, right? And so ultimately, over time, if you keep running the same campaign with the same messaging, it's going to start to lose resonance, and that's where you have to do something different. And again, we can obviously help design some strategy around that.
Totally. And like John mentioned it too, is like there's a lot of people will think about looking at the right creators to work with based off of follower count, based off of like how many people actually follow. And like the truth is, like for each brand, you actually might have a lot more impact from some of those smaller, more engaged, more niche creators. The challenge sometimes is actually finding those people and making
Yeah.
sure that you understand like the right fit for you based on like their actual commercial metrics. That's where someone like a ShopMy can help out. But I think oftentimes people will think about how do I get this in front of the biggest creator in the world? Truth is, the biggest creator in the world might not have the most engaged audience. And you want to find people, those right creators, whether it's the micro or nano, that do have that engaged audience that's a good fit for you. Otherwise, you might be wasting a lot of money on people where it's not actually going to be like driving any impact.
Yeah. Um, so I think there's another question here. How do we balance maintaining creator authenticity while still driving measurable business outcomes? Do our clients struggle with that? So I think this is interesting. We talked about authenticity and letting creators do this and driving business outcomes. At the end of the day, these performance-based creator programs, the creators get paid when they make sales, right? They drive revenue, and like your authentic, your ideas of a script, as Jack said, or the desire to have rigid control over content as it's created. Uh, Frankly, you should listen to your creators when they tell you they're going to make content the way they want to make it, because they get paid based on how that performs. Like, I promise you, they're better at determining what will actually generate revenue and sales than your brand team is if they're the ones that are trying to hand a script over to them. So ultimately, I mean, the design behind these programs is intended to drive the business outcomes and the results that you're looking for. And so, like, trying to be really prescriptive and strict with controls over content creation is just not the right answer.
Yeah.
We certainly do not encourage that for clients that work with us.
Totally. It's just, and sometimes it's like, it's a tough thing to overcome. Sometimes it's like, well, we're so protective of a brand. We want to make sure our brand image is so important. And it is so important for every brand. But I think there has to be a little bit of knowing that the conversation is happening about you anyway, right? And then it's more importantly, like, how do you actually tap into that and lean into the authentic message that they're already saying and help amplify the things that's working well? Like John and I are both wearing blue shirts. We both work in a similar industry. I bet we follow very different creators, right? Because everyone is different. Everyone is unique, and I think it actually is so important to let those creators speak to their audiences like authentically, because everyone needs to hear a slightly different message about your product, even if it's a very similar product. And the other thing I'll add is with authenticity allows you to have better predictability, right? So if I am a creator and I am talking about a certain product, and every time I post about that product, I know that I drive $500 in sales. Well, guess what? That gives you the data that you need to be able to properly price that next ask that you want from them, right? So even if you do have to do like a little bit of an upfront fee for them, you can then say, all right, if I drive $500 in sales and John drives $1,000 in sales every time he posts, well, guess what? You should be not paying us the same amount. But if we then say, all right, John and Jack, go read this script, well, guess what? Our performance, who knows what'll actually happen. So by allowing people to be authentic, you can actually then like better properly price a lot of the work that you're doing with them because you know the outcomes. Because you're just gonna say, do what you were doing before, continue talking about it a while of the same way that you were last week. And that'll allow us to properly actually forecast price and then run programs in a programmatic way.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is the next question we have here is a really good one. Is that, what's the difference between challenger brands and established and large brands in terms of how they're approaching creators? And I think this is actually Jack, you touched on this a bit in terms of the conversations that are already happening, right? And if they're not happening, how do we get creators to start talking about those brands? And I think ShopMy has some amazing features and functionality to allow us to measure conversations that are already happening and then to engage with those creators or to help start them through gifting and working with creators where you feel there would be relevancy. But ultimately that's I think from our side when we approach strategy, oftentimes it's probably that delta where bigger enterprise brands have thousands of creators. They're already talking about their products and already probably promoting them for free, right? How do we harness that and how do we engage with those creators in a deeper way? Versus newer brands, we have to frankly get the conversations going, and we have to introduce those creators to those products and those brands who will then, in turn, assuming that they like the product, they will introduce that product to their audience. So it's just a different approach, but ultimately, the end result is the same, right? We're trying to generate authentic conversation, for those brands for products that those creators love.
Yeah. And then I think I mean, I talked a little bit already, but in addition to what just John laid out, like I think the one of the other differences I sometimes see for these more traditional established brands versus challenger brands is like budget flexibility, right? Well-established brands, they've got individual teams that manage individual budgets that have been set at the beginning of the year. And if we start to see any waning or waxing of performance or efficiency in those, like they got to stay within those budgets. They got to stay within those. They got to stay within the constraints that they've been set. Versus a lot of these challenger brands are able to be a little bit more flexible. They're able to react better, and they're able to shift investment to things that are really working well, which is a challenge for those more
Yeah,
established brands.
yeah.
I can talk about this next one. So the next question we saw here is, how do we think about the increasing saturation of influencer receiving gifts from brands and the challenge of if you're going to be that next brand that's just sitting in the back of their closet, right? If they're getting a million different packages, are you going to be the one that's just sitting in the back? I don't want to come here and just like explicitly pitch ShopMy, but at the same time, this is a problem that we actually have directly solved through what we call lookbooks, where we actually have a digital experience where we offer up a creator a choice of types of product they would want to receive. And if they do not want to receive that product, they're not going to promote it, they can decline it, right? And what this does is actually save brands a lot of cost, a lot of time in terms of like sending gifts or sending PR packages that might not actually ever see outcomes. But also we see it performs a lot better because guess what? A creator can then as a choice of what are the products within that lookbook that they actually most resonate with. And we see by switching from what we would look at like our off-platform gifting to our lookbooks is that promotion rate goes up, wasted product goes down, and most importantly, the performance of that is something that is now measurable. So you can start to see, all right, we ran a gifting campaign in August. These 20 creators didn't accept it. These 10 creators did accept, but they didn't really drive any sales. And these 30 creators did a fantastic job promoting. You need the data to be able to then understand that so that for your next gifting campaign, you cut out the 20 who didn't accept. Maybe you slightly change the offer. You change what you're doing for the people that didn't perform well, and you double down on the people that do, right? So you look at those people that do and say, all right, let's go find lookalikes to them. But in the end, I think gifting is something that is, of course, it's the nature of the beast. We want people to experience the product to be able to give an authentic recommendation. But there's now tooling and technology that helps you do this with much more of a performance mindset and avoiding waste
Yeah.
in gifting.
And I'd go even stronger than that. I'd say don't just send gifts out to creators without having any engagement with them. Right? Like, ShopMy has a fantastic feature that Jack is speaking to on the lookbooks. The days of sending product out to a bunch of creators and having them just naturally start generating content because you happen to give them something for free are done, right? It's too saturated. There are too many brands doing that, and that model just doesn't work. You have to engage with them in some way, and so we have multitude of ways we do that on our side of the house. But generally, as a rule, we do not just free send out gift without having some sort of thesis and engagement with that creator, and knowing that they're going to be working with the clients that we represent. It's critical for any of the programs that we run.
Perfect.
Well, I think we're pretty much at the end of the hour here. Jack, thank you so much. This has been a fun conversation, and I appreciate you taking the time. We could like go on for hours talking about this stuff. Obviously, there's so much here, but hopefully this has been informative for everybody that joined us today.
Yeah, and John, thanks so much for having me and for being a great partner. Working with ShopMy. I think we look at a lot of our joint clients and we're seeing like incredible success. And now it's about how do we make sure that we bring that mix of strategic insights and expertise now with that tooling to be able to help like really help devise that strategy and give you the data you need. So I hope this is helpful for everybody. We love talking about it. So if you want to talk about it more, you know where to reach us. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for your time.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks, y'all.